Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is your host NearFear here today with the Team Dictator Muscle Car World Championship Season 1. We'll be starting the season off with the Del Perro GP in Del Perro, Los Santos. A 2.7 mile track with 18 turns in total, 2 of which are the most difficult corners on the track, turns 3 through 5, the DPS section. Pole position belongs to NearFear for today, the 211.617, and the track content creator is JStalin195. He'll be starting from P2 on the grid. Very interesting qualifying session from NearFear and JStalin as they both set their fastest laps on the final lap of the session. We're now going to cut over onto qualifying to see the laps set by NearFear on board with him. Here we are on the last lap of qualifying, on board with NearFear as he goes down the long desert straight, braking very hard, carrying a lot of speed in the turn one, running very wide and tapping the exit barrier as he tries to salvage that, carrying a little bit of speed into turn 2. Very interesting corner as there are multiple lines through it as he turns in, holding it around the outside to prepare for turn 3 through 5, the trickiest of the course, the DPS section. Very twitchy, turning it in on the right and the left. You got to be very careful on the throttle and the brakes as you try to exit here onto West Clips Boulevard of long turns 6 and 7. Very crucial to get the throttle right on these 2 turns, or you could end up off into a pole with your car completely demolished. As NearFear is coming up to turn 7, very late on the entry, just holding it together with the throttle, just manages to clip the curbing there as he's coming up to turn 8, braking very hard, straightening up for turn 9, trying to aim for the outside and turn in. As we make it up to the DP carousel of turn 9, holds it around the inside, gets a very nice exit coming on to turns 10 and 11. Now 10 is a very high-speed corner, but 11 is not. It's a very low-speed 90-degree corner as you see NearFear brakes hard, carrying a lot of speed into turn 11. Very twitchy coming out of that. Coming into turn 13, turn 14, decreasing radius corner of Richards Corner right here. Very tricky to get right as there are bumps in the middle, but he manages to nail that quite perfectly as we come up to turn 15. Very wide right-hander as he just drifts it a little bit, going right over the curbs, carrying all of that momentum on to turn 16. Turn 17 and 18, the Vespucci chicane. Got to nail this right to finish the lap. He's managed to get it cleanly so far at the end. Let's see what time he sets. NearFear with a 211.617, fastest of the second session, cleared by 2 full seconds. JStalin with a 213.059 in P2, Elite X in third place, 216.176. Very good for your first session without much practice. We've got Rockstar Man here in the same boat with a 217.669, and Gravedigging with his worst qualifying session of the season with a 218.309. Most of these drivers haven't gotten a lot of practice or running time, so we'll see them pick up speed during the race. Alright, here we are for the first race of the Team Dictator Muscle Car Championship at the Del Perro GP. NearFear on pole position, JStalin in second, and Elite X in third. We're going off to our formation lap where I can describe a few of the tricky corners as we begin to warm up the tires and start racing. Turn 1 is wide enough to go 2 abreast in, however it is quite tricky to do as the exit curve does come on quite suddenly. This glorious turn 2 has multiple lines through it that are equally fast, but it seems as if the middle line, if not the inside, is the quickest way around turn 2. The Del Perro S's, turns 3, 4, and 5, are better luck to stay through the middle and then go on to the outside before coming to this entry to turn 6 and 7 as NearFear just did there to get the most speed out of that corner, as it does have quite a few bumps that can spit your car out. And with these muscle cars and all of the torque that they have on board, you do not want to hit a bump at the wrong angle. Turn 8 is a very wide entry, and it does allow for some overtaking opportunities into the Del Perro carousel of turn 9. Very tricky carousel. You hit it wrong, you can get quite stuck, or you can just fly over the top of it. Turn 10, pretty wide, but it is kind of a single line through there as we cut over to the end of the formation lap for the Del Perro Grand Prix. First race of the season. We've got NearFear on pole and Jay Stalin in second place as we go green down the long desert straight into turn 1. Very, very quick acceleration out of this Dominator. However, everyone is still in the slipstream range for the first lap as NearFear breaks very early, holding that inside, trying to defend into turn 1, which he does successfully as the drivers make their way up into turn 2. NearFear taking the inside line to try and defend against Jay Stalin in the ruin there, which has superior cornering speed around this course as we go through the Del Perro S's onto turn 6 and 7, this long West Eclipse Boulevard sweeping sector as Jay Stalin manages to put it up the inside briefly after NearFear makes a mistake, but doesn't manage to get the move done there as we continue to go into turn 7. There's a lot of slipstream here as we come onto the middle of turn 7, onto the exit going into turn 8. Jay Stalin has gotten some huge tow, has launched it up the inside and managed to get the move secured. NearFear kind of pushing him coming on the exit of turn 8 as they go on to turn 9. NearFear breaks just that much later, going defensive through the carousel as he continues to go on through turns 10, carrying the speed in, going to turn 11. Very tricky 90-degree corner here. Very easy to read too late on the brakes and go off into the wall. Coming around turn 13 onto 14 of Richards Corner, the second most difficult corner on this track, as bumps can spit your car up quite wide. NearFear takes it quite nicely on the exit as we come over to turns 15 through 18. 15 being very wide. NearFear trying to straighten up the car, get some speed into turn 16 and down to the Del Perro chicane of 17 and 18 before the main straight going on to the Desert Boulevard. So NearFear has pulled quite a gap on the first lap of the race to Jay Stalin. On lap 3 as he enters turn 1 right here, goes in quite a bit wide, and we're going to cut on over to lap 4 where NearFear makes a very, very, very grave mistake, entering 5 a little too early on the throttle there in his Dominator as Jay Stalin catches up to the back of him. Couldn't make the move in the first part of turn 6 going on to 7, but does manage to attempt the move that he did in the beginning of the race of going up the inside, which has yielded successful for the second time as NearFear does break later, but Jay Stalin holds it around the inside and manages to keep the place. But NearFear, with that superior straight line speed, manages to come up into the Del Perro carousel, edging Jay Stalin out quite a bit going into turn 10, where NearFear is just trying to keep it clean here going into turn 11, breaking very early, not carrying a lot of speed into turn 11, and hampering his runs through the rest of the corners as we come back to Richards Corner. If you're trying to get an early apex done but can't quite do it, goes really wide and hits the pole on the exit. Jay Stalin catching up rapidly, attempting to go around the outside, but then attempting for the cutback going into 16, but he doesn't have the speed to quite do it. and they're now going on up into the Del Perro chicane once again as we come to the long desert straight. NearFear taps the wall on the exit, allowing Jay Stalin to work his way through the inside. But that's not going to matter too much, as NearFear is still within slipstream range and might manage to get around him by the end of the straight with the superior straight line speed of that Dominator, but doesn't quite do it. Brakes a little too late and overshoots the corner, and Jay Stalin holding it up the inside, holding first position. We've got some wonderful racing going on here so far in this race. NearFear chucking it up the inside of turn 2 and making it stick beautifully as he pulls just about a little under a tenth in doing so. Once again, going into the Del Perro S's on the exits to the 6 and 7 winding turns of Eclipse Boulevard. Going around the track, got to be very, very careful on the steering inputs as Jay Stalin just launches it up the inside with the amount of toe that he got coming up the hill. NearFear seems to be getting some slipstream coming down the hill. He might make a move for the inside. Doesn't quite do it. Jay Stalin brakes just that little bit later and manages to hold the place from NearFear as we come on to turn 9 around the carousel. Jay Stalin going around the outside, but getting caught on the exit, allowing NearFear just to skate straight on through, saying thank you very much for making that mistake. NearFear making a grave mistake, turning it a bit too early, gets the car unsettled and almost spins it in turn 10 and loses a little bit of traction in turn 11 as we come back to the complex, leading on to Richards Corner, that decreasing radius corner with quite a few elevation changes in the middle, and NearFear just losing the back end once again, allowing Jay Stalin to go straight around the outside like a breeze, but they hold it too wide through turn 15, going straight down into turn 16. I wonder if they'll hold it too wide here. They do manage to do it. NearFear got a little bit of a lead there. Gonna turn in early, squeezing out Jay Stalin just a little onto the Del Perro chicane as we go onto the main straight. Now Jay Stalin still does have quite a bit of slipstream sitting behind NearFear in that Dominator, and he might try and move up the inside into turn 1 once again before they get up to turn 2, but it seems like Jay Stalin has done just that, gotten the move done, blocked off NearFear's line on the way up to turn 2. NearFear's going to go for the move once again. Will he be able to get up the inside of Jay Stalin? And he has. He's pulled that move 3 times in a row so far this race, and each time it just seems to work wonders for him. As we're going back through the Del Perro S's, NearFear losing quite a bit of traction on the entry, and manages to keep it relatively clean in the exit, but not enough. Not enough leaves enough room for Jay Stalin to attempt a move up the inside, but he decides to back out of it. We're coming on to turn 7, where Jay Stalin's been getting most of his moves done on NearFear, but it seems like this lap he's just not close enough. As they go into turn 8, NearFear brakes quite early, backs out of the brakes, gets back on them, and comes around the carousel once again, taking that very defensive inside line, but he's lost so much speed that Jay Stalin just launched it around him into turn 10, but he had to back out of it as there wasn't enough room to fit his car in. As we come around turn 11, once again, turn 12, 13, NearFear seems to be trying to nail those apexes, straighten out the car for a turn 14, again getting all of that speed done and dusted as he hits one of the off bumps on the inside, and just getting Jay Stalin the upper hand in this race. NearFear making a lot of mistakes. It's costing him quite a lot of time out of some of these corners, and they go 2 abreast outside of the Del Perro chicane. Some nice driving there from NearFear and Jay Stalin as they completely make a gap to the rest of the pack. Elite X just holding his own against Rockstar Man, grave digging, just trying to get some laps in and finish the race as we brake very hard for turn 1. NearFear straightening out the car for turn 2 already. Aiming for the outside line as Jay Stalin follows him up into turn 2. And will he pull what NearFear did in the beginning of the race? NearFear swung wide, and Jay Stalin just seems to have done it. Gone up the inside and seems to got around NearFear. NearFear backs out of the corner as there's only 1/9 through there and loses the traction following Jay Stalin. Manages to run it straight into the barrier, giving Jay Stalin a heck of a lead. He now has to try and recuperate his losses with a damaged front end as he basically gives Jay Stalin a 1 to 2 second lead of this race. The two drivers that are battling the most during the session have now split apart as you see NearFear's caught up with his qualifying speed lap after lap, as Jay Stalin there is really putting some time, as he spun it and flipped it over outside of the Del Perro chicane, giving NearFear the lead by quite a margin as we go on to lap 8 of this race. So the two that have been battling have been spread out, and now there has been a full course caution later on in the race. We're on lap 10, and it seems to be daybreak here at Del Perro GP, and people are just starting to warm up their tires and finish out their formation lap. There was an incident between 3 of the drivers in the rear of the pack going for an all-out battle as we begin to come through turn 15 here, and pulled out a full course caution. So everyone's gridded back up. They've gotten their cars fixed up and preparing to grow green for this race out of the Del Perro chicane. Just lining up the grid and waiting for the green flag to drop. And this race is a go. Jay Stalin seemingly getting not too great of a start coming down the main straight, but it seems like it was good enough just to get around NearFear with that side draft. Rockstar Man pushing him. Jay Stalin braking quite early, and they go 3 wide into the first turn. Elite X, Jay Stalin, and NearFear. Jay Stalin coming off the best, and Elite X coming off the worst. And NearFear launches it up the inside for turn 2. Jay Stalin trying to squeeze him out of that there. Both going down into turn 3, 4, and then 5. But NearFear loses it on the entry, hitting that pole, and closes up the gap, making the same mistake he did on lap 3, spinning the car around out of turn 5, going on to turn 6. And NearFear's quite had it with sitting behind Jay Stalin due to that mistake, so he's catching up dramatically coming up into turn 7. Jay Stalin kind of squeezing him out a little bit there. NearFear getting a little squirrely, switching lanes, and it just doesn't seem like NearFear has the traction to quite pull off what Jay Stalin has pulled early on in the race. That Dominator just doesn't seem to have the rear end grip to get some of the moves done around some of the corners, so NearFear might have to wait into the braking zone or on some of the straights. As Jay Stalin goes way wide out of the Del Perro carousel, giving NearFear the place once again. And he hits the apex of turn 10 quite nicely, making his way up to the complex of turn 11 through 13. Very interesting set of corners here as you build up quite a bit of speed to try and get the best run out of this small back straight right here leading up to Richard's corner, turn 14. And he nails it. For the first time in the race, he's nailed turn 14 quite nicely, and he's carrying all that momentum down into turn 15 and 16, and he just has to sum up this lap to get out of DRS range of Jay Stalin's slipstream range. DRS isn't implemented until later this season, but he's just made enough of a gap to Jay Stalin that he doesn't have the slipstream advantage, and another caution has come out at the end of the lap. So the two back marker cars of this race, Rockstar Man and Gravedigger, got into each other and caused another formation lap. So we are now on, I believe it is lap 13, the 28-minute mark, and we have started out of turn 8 going into turn 9 for the race. Jay Stalin trying to work his way on the outside, doesn't quite get it done, and one of the cars just spins out in the back there, as you see on our monitors right now. NearFear nailing turn 10 again, and attempting to nail turn 11, but doesn't quite straighten the car out, so he scrubs off a little bit of speed there. Jay Stalin keeping right on his back bumper as NearFear makes a major mistake, but Jay Stalin can't really capitalize on that. So Elite X trying to keep up with Jay Stalin in the slipstream. Rockstar Man right behind him, and this race is starting to become a three-way battle as no one's getting any ground, as the third position starts to drop back a little from the two leaders, and the two drop back behind him. So we are on to the main desert straight as Jay Stalin is working his way up the inside in, hits a pole, and a secondary pole, giving NearFear a little bit of bleeding room, but not much, as we come into turn 1. NearFear runs quite a bit right, almost flipping the car there on the exit of 1. As we come up turn 2, without any contest really, it seems like NearFear is slowly working up that gap, similar to how he did in the beginning of the race. But the pack's still grouped up quite a bit, so it doesn't seem like he's going to get away that easy, as he runs really wide on the entry to turn 3 and really wide on the entry on the exit of 5, allowing Jay Stalin to go through the inside line as it is beginning to rain and we've gotten to full wet conditions here on track. NearFear just starting to eke away a little bit of a gap here in these major wet conditions, and brakes locking straight up into turn 2 as he just starts driving away, with leaving just a little bit of room between himself and Jay Stalin, just a little bit of a buffer zone in between those two, and the group is just compounded up quite nicely as everyone loses it on the exit of turn 5. NearFear seems to get a really good run for once during this race and manages to pull out quite a significant lead out of that corner. Not quite enough to lose the entire pack, but just enough to ease a little bit of that tension that's been going on this entire race. So NearFear attempting to be the latest of the late breakers into turn 8, but it seems to pay dividends as Rockstar Man and Jay Stalin try to outbrake him and run very wide, so that's even giving him twice the amount of gap that he's had before, so he's gotten even more room in this race. First lap after one of these cautions as NearFear comes next lap into turn 1, carrying a lot of momentum and flips the car. Car has been flipped, ladies and gentlemen. NearFear getting car around as Jay Stalin goes around the outside, Rockstar Man going up the inside, and they just narrowly avoided him. So NearFear narrowly getting collected is trying to make up all of that time in the wet conditions. The conditions he likes the best and seems to be the quickest in so far in the session, as Elite X is just trying to keep up with him in his Dominator. And Rockstar Man leading the race is Ruggiero, or Gauntlet. I believe that might be Ruggiero, but I am not completely sure, guys. I'm sorry if I do get the names wrong on some of these makes, but it's not like I have a spreadsheet in front of me. As Jay Stalin runs really wide, crashing into one of the poles, and NearFear just leaves a bit of room to avoid him, trying to catch up to Rockstar Man, losing the rear end on the exit of turn 7, coming on to turn 8, as Rockstar Man just starts to pull a bit of a gap to NearFear. So this is a change in pace of the race. We have a new leader of this race, Rockstar Man. NearFear catching up to him quite rapidly in the rain conditions, but Rockstar seems to be holding his own. That muscle car he has underneath him seems to be handling these conditions quite well, as NearFear does get the beep for super slipstream, goes straight past him in the wet conditions and brakes super late coming into turn 1 and just starts flying on to turn 2. Already has a 10th gap to Rockstar Man just in that straight alone. So NearFear and Rockstar showing some good pace. Jay Stalin seems to be catching up, and Elite X trailing just behind him. He's got Grave Digging on his tail, and two are just trying to finish the race. So NearFear losing it on the entry to turn 5 and the exit to turn 5. Rockstar Man just drives straight around him like he's a moving chicane. Embarrassing feat by Rockstar Man, as NearFear does seem to get the slipstream, but can't exactly get around the muscle car of Rockstar Man. He just seems to be putting that car in the right place. And NearFear does get a head of a toe, just tap Rockstar a little bit and stops, gets some direction change done, and a little bit of a cheeky move from NearFear, but NearFear does break pretty early to let him back pass, because that was a bit of a cheeky move on NearFear's part. Meanwhile, he gets hit in the back by Jay Stalin, who was caught up tremendously due to that incident. And he's got the rest of the pack behind him, so this is now turned back into a 4 or 5 way battle, as Rockstar Man goes very slowly around that corner, catching the tail end of NearFear just there as he goes straight around him at the what's beginning to be the end of the rain stint. Is still full wet conditions, but the rain is lightening up quite a bit, as NearFear does get a pretty good run out of Richard's corner coming into turn 15. Going down into turn 16, does get a little bit of a tail wobble there, some power on oversteer, as he almost gets collected by that barrier on the inside of 16 and comes cleanly out of the Del Perro chicane onto the desert straight, with the entire pack just trailing behind him with the full advantage of the slipstream. It seems like Rockstar Man is the first one to take advantage of it. Jay Stalin following pretty closely behind, from what I'm assuming. We only get one visual here in the Muscle Car Championship, and it seems to me that Jay Stalin just tried to squeeze his way up the outside of that of turn 1. That's the inside of turn 1. And it seems like Rockstar has seemingly gotten the outside move done into turn 2, so it seems like it can work either way, as NearFear has to back off, and it bumps, slows down Jay Stalin a bit, as NearFear loses the rear end due to slipstream kicking in just at the wrong moment as he's putting the power down. Manages to save it, but only just, as he's catching up to Rockstar Man in this slipstream going through turns 6 and 7. Really trying to get a move done, but Rockstar's wise to it, as we cut over to the end of the last caution lap. It seems there's been another incident between the back markers, as Elite X has gotten first place for the first time during this race. NearFear kind of pushing him a bit, signal he should go, but Rockstar Man has made his way up the inside into turn 1. NearFear breaks early to give him the space and pushes him on the exit, but seems like Rockstar has a bit of lag, so it's quite tricky for NearFear to figure out what Rockstar is doing, as the it seems Rockstar gets bumped a bit due to the lag he's been having all race, as NearFear does happen to get around him into 3, and coming on the exit of 5, trying to stay with Elite X, keeping the car as stable as possible, pulling the inside move similar to what Jay Stalin kept doing to him all race, but doesn't quite get it done. That Dominator pulling out quite a bit of a gap with its straight line speed, as NearFear can only just tuck in and stay behind this Dominator of Elite X, the white and blue machines, as NearFear tries to go out the outside, but is covered off by Elite X, so he's forced to try and hang it around the outside of turn 9, but he switches back to the inside. Will he get the move done? Not quite. Elite X just seems to have the braking power on him, and this seems to be a clean battle between the two drivers, Elite X and NearFear. And toward the end of the race, as Elite X loses the rear end, NearFear just drives straight around him and takes the lead back from Elite X, and starts to begin pulling a gap to the driver in the white and blue Dominator, as Jay Stalin tries to work around him, but while they're battling, NearFear is continuously pulling a gap. Now it seems that one of the cars is just slightly caught up to NearFear, and I'm not sure which one that is. We'll find out in just a moment if he catches up close to the desert straight of the Del Perro GP. We're coming in out of the Del Perro chicane. NearFear tapping the exit wall again as Elite X has gotten a major run out of that chicane and just flown straight past NearFear like a turbo-fired jet engine or something. NearFear trying to stick it up the inside but can't. He's been closed off, but Elite X has braked too late and overshot the corner, so they're going too wide up onto the run to turn 2. But Elite X has superior inside line, but we've seen that you can get the outside done on this track, but NearFear seemingly decides to do a cutback as Elite X carries too much speed in, and he just drives around him on the entry of turn 3. Good move from NearFear. A lot of experience shown there as he comes out of turn 5 quite cleanly, but not cleanly as he would like. So we've got a battle coming on between the two dominators, pulling gap to Jay Stalin and the rest of the pack coming through turns 7 and 6. Yes, folks, I've said that backwards, but it seems like Elite X has taken a playbook out of Jay Stalin and just flown up the inside of NearFear, and there is absolutely nothing he could do about it other than set up for turn 9, which it seems like Elite has covered off quite well. And pulling the same stunt that NearFear did in the beginning of the race, holding the inside. NearFear's pulled the cut back into turn 10, going on to the grass, but can't quite hold it around the outside of 10 and just gives Elite X the position. Some very smart racing between these two drivers. Very intense in the dying laps of the Del Perro GP in the middle of the night, as NearFear seems to get the slipstream of Richard's corner, trying to keep the car as flat as he can. That slipstream adding a bit of horsepower to the engine as NearFear dives up the inside very late on the brakes and covering off Elite X and trying to pull a gap into turn 16. These two are just going at it. Meanwhile, Jay Stalin's whittling away at NearFear's lead, coming through the pack with Rockstar Man. Very interesting race at Del Perro as we were on minute 57, lap 23 out of 38, so we've got a bit to go in this race. And it seems like NearFear has started to eke out a bit of a gap to Elite X as we cut on to minute 88 of the Del Perro GP. It looks like one of the muscle cars caught back up to NearFear in first position again. I wonder who that might be. We'll get to see who it is in just a moment as we get the lap count right now. As the last 2 laps of the race, Jay Stalin has thrown it up the inside. His car quite beaten up by coming back through the field once again, as NearFear has to hold the outside. This is a race for the points right here. In the last 2 laps of the race, NearFear chugging up the inside, Jay Stalin not having enough time to cover it off and being forced a little wide there as NearFear straightens it out and tries to maximize this entry speed right here. He's getting squirrely on the entry once again. Tries to make it as clean as possible, straightens it up for turn 6 already. As you can see, he's very defensive now. We haven't seen this out of NearFear in quite some time, as Jay Stalin is attempted to go up the inside but doesn't seem to have the stability that he has had in the beginning of the race, so it is quite difficult. NearFear wise up to Jay Stalin's tactics out of turn 7, that he's kind of blocked his runoff a little bit, braked super late into turn 8 and has managed to hold the position, squeezing out Jay Stalin a little bit, coming up to turn 9, braking quite late into the carousel, holding that inside defensive line, which we have found is slower, but Jay Stalin not able to capitalize on that as he did early in the race. NearFear almost getting collected by the wall on that building there, folks. I wish we could get a replay of that as they come up to Richard's corner right here. NearFear getting quite some speed, but it seems like Jay Stalin's keeping on to the back of him, as NearFear does keep it quite clean through there. He's not going to try and make the mistake in the last 2 laps of the race as he did in the beginning. Runs it quite tidy through turn 15. You'd think he'd carry a little bit more speed through there as he did in qualifying, but decides not to, as he kind of backs it up into the Del Perro chicane going on to the Desert Straight, which has backed Jay Stalin up quite significantly, but has that given him an opportunity to get slipstream in the middle of the straight, which could be disastrous for NearFear, as this is the last lap of the race, and NearFear desperately needs these points to keep his momentum into the second race. He's already qualified pole. He knows he might be the fastest car, but it just seems like Jay Stalin has pulled out some pace from his top hat, and he's able to keep up. Now there is a 3/10 gap to Jay Stalin here on the entry to the Del Perro S's, but NearFear has made a rookie mistake, but has recovered quite nicely, not with the speed that he'd want to, but with just enough speed to keep Stalin behind him as we come up through the 6-7 complex of the Del Perro GP. Jay Stalin pulling the classic move up the inside with the grip of that Ruiner, as NearFear desperately trying to get some slipstream, brakes very early, holds it around the inside similar to what Jay Stalin did, but has to avoid Jay Stalin, loses the speed on the exit. Jay Stalin with a bit of a gap into the Del Perro roundabout, Del Perro carousel, but it seems like NearFear squeezes them out very wide onto that carousel, almost runs him off, and just flies around turn 11 as Jay Stalin has hit a pole, and that is the end of the race. He has now given NearFear a second gap on the last lap, and all NearFear needs to do is hold that lead and finish the Grand Prix. It seems like NearFear in that purple and black Dominator has won the Del Perro GP in the last lap of the race, 92 minutes, and it has all come down to this. What a race, guys. What a race. We've got NearFear in first place. You've got Jay Stalin and Rockstar Man on the podium. First muscle car race, and we've already got Rockstar on the podium. Elite X just shy of the podium by quite a bit of a margin. Grave digging right where he qualified in the final position of 5th. But good racing throughout the entire field. Each man his own, as NearFear set fastest lap of the race. Jay Stalin only a few tenths shy of NearFear at the end of the race in terms of pace, so they were pretty close throughout the entire race, and that explains it right there. Might have been a fluke in qualifying, but hope you guys enjoyed the race. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for future videos, and I will catch you all on the flip side.